Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new stream. Make sure you like this stream down below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. I'm sure a lot of you guys who are just tuning in now have because you're the notification squad. But make sure you do in order to use the live chat. Welcome back everybody. It's been a few days and I know I've been streaming more lately, which is a very good thing. And we're going to continue to stream even more. I think two to three times a week or so. I think Tuesdays and Fridays tend to be the best days to stream on this channel, and that's when we're going to be doing them. So we have a lot to talk about tonight. I'm sure you guys have been waiting to get into some of this new news that's dropping, and we're going to talk about all of it. We're going to be talking about Donald Trump holding rallies again. He's actually holding them. That's interesting, because a lot of people talked about his announcement speech and criticized it for being low energy, even though the messaging was pretty decent. Now it's time to test Trump in front of a, raucous crowd. Does he still have that energy to really win? Because he's going to need to bring the energy to win a primary or general election or whatever. It's going to have to be there. It absolutely will. So that's a good thing. It's going to be interesting to see. This is also on the day after the RNC chair election. Speaking of which, we actually have a video coming in documentary style format. It's been about 11 months or so, but I've written the script. I'm going to be recording it tomorrow. And we actually have 4 of those types of videos planned between now and the end of February, but this is going to be the first one because the election is coming up very shortly. It's coming up on, I believe, January 27th, and Trump's rally is going to be on the 28th. So hopefully by, I guess you would say this weekend, I would like to see that video put out on Sunday ahead of the RNC chair election. It's going to be very informative, talking about the incoming race, the problems with Romney McDaniel, and talking about why Dylan will be the best choice and possibly could end up winning. I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but if there is a chance to remove Romney, it's going to be with Dylan. So we will see about that. But furthermore, we'll also be talking more about another documentary, Postmortem in the Midterms. I know it's kind of an old topic, but ahead of the presidential election, there has been a lot of blame placed on Donald Trump for a lot of the midterm losses by many members of the GOP establishment and even some people who claim to oppose the GOP establishment. We're going to be looking into the actual numbers of some of these races and talk about how many races were actually impacted. Full objective analysis, by the way, not inserting any personal type of stuff, and that's how I'm really going to prove the point, because everything is pretty much objective. But yeah, we're going to be working on that, obviously. But furthermore, in this stream, we're going to be talking about Trump's rally, some of the recent messaging coming from Donald Trump. Is he on track? What's going on here? What's going on, big guy? You having rallies with Lindsey Graham may not exactly be the best look, and we'll talk about why in this stream. But we're also going to be talking a little bit about the Biden documents, which, I mean, we've talked about that in the most recent video. I'm not going to run it into the ground per se as a topic, but it's very interesting how you do have a lot of people on the left that now all of a sudden want to investigate Biden. Now it's possible that there are multiple theories that we could come up with for why that is. Either, they actually just want to say, oh, we're going to investigate him so we can keep investigating Trump, or they're going to investigate him because they want to get rid of him for some reason, or they're going to want to investigate him so they can control the investigation to make sure that it always goes their way. And then if the Republican House committee investigation goes a different way, they'll be able to say, oh, it's partisan, whatever. Either way, we'll be discussing a little bit of that, but also the Ohio Senate race already began, and you're seeing a lot of the 2024 races. You see people popping in to some of these primaries early on. I mean, Jim Banks is potentially going to run in Indiana. Mooney and Justice are allegedly running in West Virginia, or slated to potentially run for Senate there. And that's definitely a race for Republicans to watch because they're going to need to flip it. They obviously, in my opinion, will, especially because of the fact that Joe Manchin has moved to the left since his last very narrow reelection bid in a blue wave year, and Republicans are going to be putting up much better challengers now, and it's a presidential year, so whatever happens down ballot, you're going to see Republicans raised up no matter what in this day and age, and down ballot lag is something that we saw in full effect this cycle in the midterms, how down ballot candidates performed closer to in line with what the top of the ticket did in a lot of these races. That's why you saw Republicans doing so well in a place like New York. That's why George Santos had a ridiculously large margin of victory in such a blue district, even though we know he's going to be out the door anytime soon. Or will he be? He'll still be claiming to be a congressman more likely than not, even if he decides not to run for re-election, given his track record. But that's beside the point. Either way, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in Ohio, but you have new entrants there. Also, at the World Economic Forum, it's happening right now in Davos, Switzerland, or however you pronounce it. I'm sure somebody's going to correct me, as they usually do on this channel. A lot of Republicans are actually speaking. A lot of Republicans. You have Georgia Governor Brian Kemp. I mean, that's not going to surprise a lot of people. He's speaking there. Two-faced guy, by the way. We know that. And then you also have other Congress people that are showing their true colors, which we already knew about, but now it's shining through even further at the World Economic Forum, which is basically where world leaders go to sit around at round tables. They go to give speeches to each other, basically promoting their vision for the entire world, laying out the economic vision, etc., all these elites, and they lay out basically the globalist agenda. You see that in spades at these places. You see them at all of these world summits that we see. And this is true. And you see a lot of anti-WEF sentiment rising in the Republican Party as of late over the past couple of years. I think that that's a very good thing, a very good step in the right direction in terms of actually bringing to light again the issue of globalization. But either way, we're going to get going. We're going to get started. That's enough of an intro, a 7-minute intro. I think it's time that we dive in. We are going to get to Super Chats, by the way. I'm not exactly ignoring that. If you guys have any questions for me during the stream, feel free to send them via Super Chat. I will answer them when we're done with the monologue. We'll see how it goes. But either way, we're going to get started. So Donald Trump is holding rallies again. He put out this press release. He put it out earlier today, where he said he is going to unveil his South Carolina leadership team in South Carolina, sort of in front of a rally or so, delivering remarks in a new setting. So it's going to be interesting to see what exactly happens at this potential event. And what is he doing? He's going to be joined by a lot of members of the South Carolina Republican Party. He's going to be joined with Henry McMaster, who is their governor. That is a very good thing. Having Henry McMaster's support, that's something you want. He's been very effective. It's gone under the radar, but you talk about a state Republican Party that has been so bad, underratedly bad. He is kind of the light shining through, per se, and he was very good during COVID. He was very good. He doesn't get any recognition for it, but he's a very decent governor, and he won re-election by a resounding margin. He only won by like 8. His first re-election bid in 2018. He won this year by like 17, 18 points, some ridiculous margin down there in South Carolina. And he is very well a MAGA governor, per se. He's been very effective, in the same class as Ron DeSantis. Some may even say better, although he's done so very quietly. Now, he's also going to be joined by Lindsey Graham. Now, Lindsey Graham is somebody that Trump himself called a RINO. Probably, like, I think it was less than a year ago. Trump said, oh, he's a nice guy, but he's a RINO. And Trump's right. He was right in saying that. He indicated a little bit of regret that it was a bad decision to keep Graham so close to his circle during his presidency, because Graham actively subverted Trump's agenda. And we know this, and a lot of people do by now. And Trump, to his own credit, acknowledged this. Now he's flip-flopping on it. Now he's backtracking. Again, this is the kind of stuff that is going to breed disillusionment. You could make excuses for why, oh, he's just going to have a supporter. And it's true, but why does Lindsey Graham support Trump? because he believes that he could get in his inner circle and control Donald Trump. Now, this is the same reason why a lot of people in the establishment support Ron DeSantis for president. They support him to get rid of Trump, and they also support him as like this pivot vehicle that could be used for them, and they also like believe he's more electable or whatever. Lindsey Graham is somebody who supports Donald Trump because he actively subverted Trump's agenda during his presidency and got to do all of these media appearances and thinks that, hey, maybe if Trump gets by, he'll be nice to me again and I could get close to his inner circle. And given the fact that a lot of members of the GOP have just dipped from supporting Trump right now, or either launching campaigns of their own, or they're just like very quiet on the matter of 2024, which again, you can kind of understand because we're not really there yet. It's barely early in 2023. Lindsey Graham is somebody who's pouncing on Trump early and trying to attach himself to Trump in hopes of maybe getting some sort of position out of it or being his informal advisor again, the way that he kind of was during Trump's presidency. He's a golfing buddy, nothing more, and he's very subversive. And we saw this throughout his entire presidency, or at least since the Kavanaugh hearings when Graham actually went off a little bit, and the base liked it because that was kind of like the thing the base was focused on at the time. And now he's back. And Lindsey Graham is somebody who is awful on pretty much all of the issues. He's very carefully navigated some of his rhetoric over the past couple of years, trying not to really anger the Trump base. But the guy is just a war hawk. He's a neocon. He is a legacy Bush Republican in the current day still, by and large. He's a grifter. Oh, Lindsey 2.0. Yeah, not really. Okay. He wants to stay in the Senate. That's all he wants to do. He wants to stay in the Senate. He wants to keep power. He didn't want to be primaried so he could stay there and probably behind closed doors be a little sussy with Tim Scott, if you know what I mean. But either way, we know that Lindsey Graham is a fake. And Trump doing rallies with him is not really the best look. And Trump is somebody that's been under fire by the base, some of which is warranted, some of which is kind of overblown. But either way, this is a very divisive primary coming up. The GOP establishment, now they understand, given what happened in 2016, how to navigate Trump. And now, does Trump really have that fire? Does he have that dog in him, per se, to come back in 2024, where he's 8 years older, bring the same fire and energy and talk to the same disaffected voters in the same way, or even in a better way now, in order to defeat the GOP establishment? And if he's going to do so, he's going to need to steer clear from some of these people. We know that he's got some of his bad advisors out of the way, and that's a good thing. But he's going to have to go up against DeSantis, more likely than not, assuming he runs, who, again, has his own flaws, but they're not being talked about, and you're not really allowed to mention them in GOP circles, even in pro-Trump GOP circles, because it's like, why are you attacking the most popular governor in the entire country who receives all this glowing praise from the conservative media, the same media that was actually against Trump back in 2016 during the primaries, and even some of them for the general election, or even at times during his presidency? I wonder. I really wonder. But either way, doing rallies with Lindsey Graham is not the way to energize the base, or having events with Lindsey Graham. I don't know to what extent this is like a formal rally. A lot of people online were calling it a rally, but either way, it is a formal event. It's going to be in front of a lot of people at the South Carolina State House. And also keep in mind, there are members of the South Carolina congressional delegation who are going to be in attendance, who are going to be personally invited. Who does that actually entail? Because is Nancy Mace going to be there? The train wreck herself, who should have been primaried. It's one of the biggest failures that she actually wasn't. Maybe you could say it was because she was able to get access to all of that funding, or you could say it's because Arrington really wasn't the strongest challenger, even though Arrington did knock off Sanford as a primary challenger back in 2018. I don't know. But either way, Nancy Mace is a disgrace. Not just saying that because it rhymes. I'm saying that because it's true. And if she's going to be there, which I don't know if she will be. Some people were saying she would be. Others were saying no. But that would be a low blow, especially because she's somebody that he endorsed against in a primary, even if he's actually going to be touting the support. I understand you're going to need some establishment backing in order to advance your campaign. I get that. Trump in 2016 was touting, I think, like Newt Gingrich and John Boehner and some of these other people and their endorsements back in the 2016 primary. But either way, having been through it all and a lot of the base now kind of not being as open to Trump because a lot of people claim they want to try something new, whether you think that that's good or not, and then you're going to be doing rallies or holding events where you're touting Lindsey Graham as like a great endorsement. I don't think it's the best look. I don't think it's the best optics. I really don't. There is that level of disillusionment there. There really is. And that doesn't mean that I'm not supporting Trump in 2024, but there are legitimate gripes or reservations that could prevent him from actually winning a primary. And it seems like every day as the days go on, there's something new where you could say, okay, I can kind of understand where he's coming from. But at the end of the day, if you're trying to win over a divided primary field who is not really like as on board with you as they were in the past, it's just not the best look. It's just not. And I will say that. And there needs to definitely be more energy in the campaign. He needs to use social media again as well, because you cannot win an election by just going on, I don't know, right-wing news channels, not like Fox, but channels that a lot of people don't watch besides a lot of people that are going to be voting for you anyways, and the numbers just are not exactly there, and using a social media platform that a lot of your supporters have downloaded but probably don't even open on a daily basis, and I do fall into that category as well. So he's going to be back on Twitter. If he used Twitter again, he probably would get access to Facebook and Instagram again because they're still like debating on whether to bring him back or not. And definitely Twitter stock would go up, or I guess you would say their user base would increase if they actually use it. And definitely we understand that it's nonsense that he's been kicked off these platforms for quite some time. It absolutely is. But now that he has access or can get back on, I just don't understand why he doesn't use them, because that's where the people are. He can do Truth Social, he can keep truth, he can promote it, but at least like post screenshots to Twitter, because most Americans, even who supported and voted for Trump, probably don't even know that he's running for president right now or that he's actually announced. That's kind of a problem. That's the way I see it. I'm not even like coming at him from like a bad faith argument, because I see a lot of bad faith anti-Trump arguments for 2024 all the time, and I'm sick of them. Like, oh, well, Trump, he locked down the country. DeSantis stood up to Fauci, and it's like, okay, well, DeSantis also locked down the country. And DeSantis also promoted the jab the way Trump promoted the jab, and I'm not a fan of any of that. But I will say that a lot of these arguments are just nonsensical. Oh, he attacked Kemp for reopening. Yeah, he shouldn't have. But at the time, that was like a very unpopular position to be held, even by like the electobro logic. And Brian Kemp had, what, a 30-some% approval rating after he did that. Was it the right thing to do? Yes, obviously. A lot of people know that now. But I mean, just like dogging on Trump for stuff like that is kind of dumb, given the fact that there was so much we didn't know about what was going on in March or April of 2020. If you did, more power to you. I mean, that's awesome. That shows that you have very good intuition. But it's not like any other presidential contender for 2024 was in line with that, with the actual position. It's not. And notice how these people don't support Brian Kemp either. So whatever. And they shouldn't, really, because he's at the World Economic Forum as we speak, which we're going to be talking about that in a minute. But more so on the comments of what was said from Representative Maria Salazar. So I just asked the people, and you could send a super chat in what your thoughts are. And I'm sure we'll get to regular chat later on in the stream, probably after the hour mark or so. But what is your take on this? Where are you with Trump right now, even if you do support him? That's kind of where what I'm saying, because, you know, skeptical, obviously, of Ron DeSantis, would still prefer Trump, even in current form, to him, although it seems as if Trump in current form may struggle to beat him in a primary, and constructive criticism does need to be levied even at people we like here and there. Or we'll also hear what the arguments for or against are in terms of my critiques of Trump and some of his recent messaging, and he's done a good job with policy from what I've seen. I mean, his free speech tech platform was awesome from what I can tell, but now you're seeing a lot of people talking about how he's like attacking evangelicals or whatever, which again, I've read the statements and I didn't really come off that way, but it does really seem like Trump is, you would say, there's like this fear of even him losing the grasp of the base, and he's going to have to navigate it better and rise above the same way that I think a lot of his detractors are by ignoring him. He's going to have to ignore them, but he's also going to have to get back in the field, get back in the ring, get back on social media. You're going to have to go to Fox News. You're going to have to get all these media appearances wherever you possibly can get them just to, get back in the game. You have to go where the normies are, go where the voters are, build the movement. Movement means you're, moving something. It's what it means. You have to move public opinion. You see a movement of a lot of voters who never voted before joining Trump back in 2016, hence the term movement. I mean, it's mincing different definitions of the term, but either way, they mean the same thing. Regardless. So what can I say? We'll listen to the people, but also I want to get to some of these other topics as well before we really get in. I think we're gonna jump around here in the title because I want to talk about this for a brief second. Where at the World Economic Forum, this is where all the leaders of across the world meet, elites, businessmen, politicians, etc., Democrats, Republicans, just the establishment, the uniparty that supports this globalist agenda of globalization, open borders, open society, free market, etc., without regulation, no trade protectionism, etc. Maria Salazar is a representative from South Florida, and she decided that it was such a great idea to resonate with her voters, or in the part of Florida that's trending ever so Republican. It's not like she's in a blue district or at risk of losing re-election. But even so, that's not an excuse. I mean, you don't see Mike Garcia going to the World Economic Forum. But Maria Salazar said we need to give dignity. She's talking about how we need this. We just need to, have compassion and coddle, per se, and just pander to these people with rhetoric about the 13 to 15 million illegals. So they actually bumped it up from 11, apparently, over the past couple of years. It used to be 11, even though some studies have shown that it's 22 million, and some have indicated that it's actually a lot more than that. We don't know the actual number, but it very well could be 13 to 15 or more illegal aliens that are living inside this country that are living off of assistance in some way or another. And now we know she's going there talking about, we need to coddle these people. We need to give dignity to these people. We need to basically, she's saying, we're going to give them amnesty, or we're going to let them have a path to residency or so in this country. So Republican members of Congress are doing everything that they possibly can do to put this country last. And again, people are really wondering why Republicans fail in middle America. And it's like, there is this disconnect between the party elite, people like Maria Salazar, who have been backed by big money, and the actual voters. And you could say, well, her district's a little different. It's Cuban, whatever. It's like, I don't care. It doesn't matter. It's not like it's a blue district. And it's not like even because you run in a district full of Cubans that you have to go shill for mass illegal immigration at the World Economic Forum. To my knowledge, a lot of those 13 to 15 million are not Cuban at all. In fact, the Cubans are not really the biggest fans of them, hence why they tend to vote more Republican. Obviously, there's other reasons, because Republicans have been, big supporters of intervention in Cuba, which I disagree with personally. And also you have the fact that it's like they use the term social. It's not just that they use the term socialism, but, you have this rise of rhetoric from the left, economically speaking, that they don't really resonate with. But either way, there's just no reason for this. There's no reason why any Republican who calls himself a Republican in this day and age, who, if we actually want the Republican Party to break the uniparty and be the party against globalization, to be shilling for basically de facto mass amnesty at the World Economic Forum. There's no reason for this to be happening whatsoever, but they just bend over, they cave every single second that they can. And it's so unnecessary. Nobody's even asking them to do this. And it's not like they're going to be liked by the left either. It has nothing to do with that. I believe Salazar won, but she didn't even like outperform Trump by like a ridiculous amount in the 2020 election. And it's not like any Republican is going to lose Florida at this point because the state has been terraformed significantly, partially because you have good leadership there relative to other states. You have halfway competent leadership. You have a decent governor in Ron DeSantis, who I like, by the way. A lot of people say that I don't like him just because I'm a little bit skeptical of what he would actually bring to the table at the national level. I don't know. But either way, this type of rhetoric in the GOP, that's what the party establishment wants, and that's what they want to resonate with the base, and it's not what actually resonates with the base. It's what resonates with Davos, Switzerland. It's what resonates with the globalist leadership of the World Economic Forum. And that's an issue. And I'm just so sick of it. I'm sick of this nonsense. It's just pointless. It really is pointless. Like you're sticking your neck out for people who are never going to vote for you if they actually get some sort of amnesty. It's just nonsense. It really is. So that's it for that. I also want to touch on the Ohio Senate race. We'll touch a little bit on the documents as well, and then we're going to get to your super chats. People are sending them, and we're going to get to them. Haven't forgot about them yet. But either way, it's nonsense. And speaking of people that bend over and cave, Matt Dolan, who ran for Senate in Ohio in 2022, got, I believe, third place in the primary. He is running for Senate again. And this is the same guy who I believe was a part of the ownership of the Cleveland Indians at the time and did everything that he possibly could do to change their name because of woke pressure from the BLM woke wave of 2020 to change their name and history to the Cleveland Guardians for no reason. That's all. That's really all he did it for. He did it to appease the mob because he's weak. And he is somebody who's no different than like Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins on a lot of issues. He would be worse than Rob Portman. Rob Portman running again would be preferable to the Republicans nominating Matt Dolan. Ohio is a very Trumpian state. There's a reason why Obama won it by 5. He won it by 3. Even when Bush was winning Ohio, he was winning it by like, 1 point, 2 points when he, had won the nation by 2 points. And this is not a state that is averse to authentic conservatives. J.D. Vance did just fine in November. And people will say he underperformed. Like, the guy barely campaigned in the general election. He was vastly outspent by Tim Ryan, who was the best candidate that the Democrats could have put up, and he couldn't even win Mahoning County against him. Mahoning County moved right from 2020. I mean, like Vance won by 6 to 7 points or so. The generic ballot actually for the House moved left by the same amount that the Senate race moved left from Trump's margin in 2020. Vance did just fine. There's no reason to cave in Ohio. And it's very possible that Republicans are going to flip that Senate seat there, if not even probable, because of the fact that Sherrod Brown has been there for quite some time and has really shown his true colors to be somebody who is very much more left-leaning than he leads on, despite, being senator of a state that is like, what R+8 or so at the presidential level, and counting, by the way, and counting. He votes like he's senator of Vermont, and he's very far left on a lot of issues. It's not that he's even like a party line vote for the Democrats. He's somebody who is kind of indistinguishable politically from his philosophy compared to somebody like Elizabeth Warren even. And his days are really numbered. He may be more popular because he can do like this whole like working class LARP, and I'm sure he's going to outrun Biden in 2024. But a lot of Republicans are capable of beating him. Somebody like Matt Dolan, does he actually like wedge voters enough to turn out for him in a general when they could just be voting the way they've been voting for years and years on end? I'm not even concerned that he'd like win or lose, but I'm saying a lot of these people would win. Pretty much everyone you could put up, unless they have a massive scandal and is like capable of fundraising more than Doug Mastriano, is going to defeat Sherrod Brown in the 2024 election. This is true. Ohio is not what it used to be. Even in 2018, that Senate race voted to the right of the national environment, And Brown faced the worst possible opponent that he possibly could in terms of somebody who just did not know how to campaign. Nobody knew he was running for Senate. He got within 7 points or so. So you have, oh, Matt Dolan is going to win. People say Dolan is not the best choice, or the same people that gave us these people who lost or whatever. Just nonsense. I mean, Warren Davidson, I don't know if he's going to run, but he's very Trumpian. But he also outperformed Trump by 7 points in 2022 in his district. He's somebody who's more than capable of winning Ohio, a Trumpian state, statewide. It's true. You have Yost, who's the attorney general, who has been relatively solid and is an electoral juggernaut. You have LaRose, the secretary of state, who's been decent to a certain degree, still relatively an electoral juggernaut or so, has a couple of blind spots on foreign policy that we could look into or potentially pressure him into fixing, whatever. Either way, all of these choices are leaps and bounds better than somebody like Matt Dolan. It's true. We need more people like Vance in these Rust Belt states. We need, in terms of some of these Sun Belt states, you could say we need maybe more like DeSantis, Youngkin types, and if they're competitive states like Arizona or Florida, not even Florida anymore, but Georgia, whatever, okay, you can say that. But in these Rust Belt states, there's no reason not to run these optical America First type of fighter candidates, because Vance proved that they can win. People like Hawley have won. Hawley's probably going to win by 20 for his re-election bid. As long as they're able to get decent fundraising, they should be good. And it's the same thing when it comes down to these House races. Run the most base people you can in the deep red states, obviously, or the deep red House seats. But in these swing districts, we don't need to be running Don Bacon's in these pure toss-up districts, or these Fitzpatrick types, or some of these other Peter Meyer loser types. You could actually run decent people like your Hung Cows, your Mike Garcias, whatever, in the D+1, D+2 districts, and they're going to be able to win anyway. So, it all comes down to finding the right fit. This is true, but we need to do everything we can do to maximize our electoral gain while still putting up people that get it, per se. Obviously, not everything's going to be perfect, but the more we understand how to navigate electoral politics, the faster we're going to be able to actually get the ball rolling. And also, we got to hold our public officials accountable, like these losers here that are going and speaking at the World Economic Forum and shilling for things that they have no business shilling for, the interests of the global elite, Klaus Schwab, whatever, at the World Economic Forum. So that's what it comes down to. So that's it for Ohio. In terms of the Biden documents, because some people are going to talk about the Biden documents as well, people have, again, they keep finding more of them, and they're in his car, or they're in his storage shed, or they're just all over the place, and there's probably a lot more. Democrats routinely keep announcing their praise for this investigation into the Biden documents, which is really surprising to me because of the fact that we know that they've been covering for him for so long, but now all of a sudden, it's like a noble thing that we're going to investigate Joe Biden. And it's I don't believe that they want to throw him under the bus in full. I just don't believe that. His approval rating has been rising a little bit for, I don't know why. Normies just live in a different world, I guess. But I will say that I think that they want to get control of the investigation so they can control the narrative. They'll investigate him. His approval rating will dip. And then, King Biden, the most epic warrior of all time in their eyes, is going to rise above the Republican slander, and they're going to say he did nothing wrong despite him literally doing everything he could do to objectively break the law, because the National Archives did not know that those documents were taken or that they existed or whatever. In the Trump case with Mar-a-Lago, it's entirely different because it's stored in a very secure, well-guarded, with cameras, location. Trump had authority to declassify everything. And we also know that the National Archives has known about it. There's been this ongoing legal battle for a while. Their raid of Mar-a-Lago, by and large, was a political stunt. Biden, they keep finding these documents all over the place. They tend to deal much more with actual national security matters, some of which allegedly have ties to potentially uncovering certain things about the Hunter Biden scandal, whatever. And it's they keep finding these documents at this these think tanks or whatever that Biden's opened, and you have like these, the defense of there's funeral paperwork for some funeral that took place 6 years ago, so they shouldn't be looking there, despite the fact that like the think tank center or whatever opened like a few years ago. Why are there all these old funeral papers there? It doesn't make any sense. But either way, I don't know what their end game is, but just be careful. It's not like, we're going to turn on Biden and he's going to be done. Just be wary about that, because they're going to want to make him seem like this warrior who overcame scandal ahead of 2024. That's what they're going to want to do, because they're going to want to do everything they can do to prop him up and keep him in power. It's not going to be easy. I'm not saying that we can't defeat him in 2024. What I'm saying is that they're not going to make it easy. They're not. It's not like we're going to knock him off by a ridiculous margin. No, the system is going to do everything they can do to protect him. It's going to be a very close election. Either way, doesn't matter who the Republicans put up, doesn't matter if they put up Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump, whoever. It's going to be a very close election. Make no mistake. They're going to put out all the stops on whoever. So be careful. All right, I think it's time we get to the super chats, because we have been going on for quite some time. All right, let's see. I'll pull these up, make sure that we can read all of them. Let's see. Make sure that we have it all. Okay. Let's see. Let's go back all the way up. So I want to make sure that the first one that is showing me is like the actual first super chat, so I'm not missing anything here, which it does seem like it is the first super chat. So we are going to read it when I can find it. Again, here we go. John Waffle H2P says, what percentage do you think Trump has to win? If you're talking about the primary or the general election, it could be entirely different things. As of right now, there's a lot we don't know regarding the general election, the national environment. 2 years ago, very may well be entirely different than the national environment today. If there is a serious, severe economic collapse that is way worse than whatever we have now, whatever Republican will likely be favored, I agree. But if Biden's going to like appear like he's fixing the problems that we have now, give a little bit more to the independents, whether it's like finding more oil reserves, which I don't even know if there's going to be any left, or just like putting up like a makeshift border barrier at the border on the 11th hour to make sure that he's doing something only for him to tear it back down the second his second term would start. Yeah, I think that we could very well be non-favored, but I'd say Trump winning the primary, I really think it's 50-50. I really do. He has to make adjustments to win. He does. Because whatever he's doing right now, he's on the downward trajectory of all the polls. The conservative media is controlling pretty much everything. It's a little bit of an issue. I still support him. I think he has potential still, even despite being 78 years old or so, or whatever he'll be. If he does win the nomination, is going into election day or inauguration day. But still, a lot does need to change, and campaigning with Lindsey Graham is not the best look. You got to appear like you are, I guess you would say, you have the energy, but you're still talking about things that matter, just hammering the establishment that is shafting you for nonsensical reasons. That's instead of actually touting with the few members of the GOP establishment that you may have in your corner that are not just like establishment friendly, but are full on the root cause of the problem. That's what Lindsey Graham is. You know, you could say that even like a person like, I don't know, DeSantis is like a part of the GOP establishment because he's a career politician. Well, if he's on your side, he's one of the better, GOP politicians. That's kind of a good thing to have, a good thing to tout. But you're touting Lindsey Graham. It's not exactly the best thing. I know South Carolina is a primary state. I'm not sure Republican primary voters in South Carolina really have all that high of a view of Lindsey Graham. And those that do probably are like the type to turn on Trump and like vote for DeSantis over him anyway. So it's kind of confusing. Christopher Laurie says, I support Trump, but to be honest, I have a lot of doubts. I'm more confident in winning the Senate and keeping the House than winning the White House. I agree. The Senate map is just super favorable. I can't see us losing the Senate. I really can't. I mean, that would be impossible. If they somehow drop the ball and lose both Montana or Ohio and or Texas for some reason, this party just has no future. If they drop the ball that bad and lose like two of those three states, there's just no future for the Republican Party, because they would just have ushered in an era of electoral irrelevance for them. They'd be frozen out of the House probably at that point, frozen out of the Senate entirely, despite having the most favorable map you possibly could ever wish for. And then obviously losing the White House for another 4 years would be a train wreck. So Sagafragus is unrelated to politics, but did you see that Ben Johnson is staying with the Lions and MCDC, hoping for something great to come out of Michigan for once next year? Yeah, absolutely. Ben Johnson staying was huge, because you have somebody who could easily get a promotion, be paid probably millions upon millions of more dollars per year, but he'd rather stay with the Detroit Lions and build something that he believes to be great on a franchise that has basically been a poverty franchise for quite some time. It's a great thing to see. And that season, whether they made the playoffs or not, they ended it on a very high note and ended Aaron Rodgers' career, for lack of a better term, whether he comes back or not. So either way, yeah, great things happening there. Ron, a.k.a. Matt, says there ain't going to be no sequel. This here is it. Trump's announcement speech gave 16 vibes. I'm not fully on board, but I liked it, and man, Biden sucks. So there's not going to be a sequel, but you support Trump's speech. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that, but either way, I liked the messaging. I did. It was relatively on point. The energy was meh. We'll see what happens with the energy, but I'm just saying, like, this whole I'm going to campaign with Lindsey Graham type of stuff, like, I'm not a big fan of it. What's the argument in favor? Like, I'm not coming from a malicious or a bad faith standpoint here, but there are things that need to change. Or you look at his Truth Social, it just seems a little bit discombobulated, a little bit all over the place. Like, I mean, it's not like, I mean, some of what he says is great, but some of it is like, I don't know how this resonates. And the people that some of it resonates with are the people that are just going to vote for him no matter what. And that's a good thing that he has those people, because it gives him a high floor, but he's going to need to build on that in order to not only win a primary, but a general. The fact that he's being frozen out of all media proves that he's really going to struggle to control the narrative, even within the GOP, ahead of 2024. Because even his own day one base, you have people that are saying, I don't know if he's going to be able to do it. And it's not because they think he's like too far right or whatever, or that he's like uneluctable like all these losers have said from day one. It's they just don't believe he has what it takes anymore. And I hope he proves them wrong. I hope he proves some of my doubts wrong as well. But he does have a long way to go. And I don't think that I'm out of line for saying that he has a long way to go. So John Waffle H2 Pieces, I've recently watched Bush's 04 RNC speech, and I thought it was so extremely disturbing that we can't go back to that. True. With that said, Trump is the best candidate right now, so MAGA 2024, vote them out. Yeah, I listened to clips of Trump's 2016 RNC speech today. At the gym, by the way, you know, they have these edits. I don't know if people have seen them, but they put clips of Trump's 2016 like campaign key highlight moments over like this inspirational like movie scores, music or whatever. Makes for a good workout. I would say music, but I don't even know if you call it music. But honestly, it's a good motivational thing. And it's like, this guy was awesome. Like, this guy was the legend. It's like, I really want to see that again, but I just don't know if he can bring it. I hope he could bring it, you know, more than he did back in 2020 even, but we'll have to see. Lifo Foley says, what do you know about Brandon Presley? I know he's a Democrat who is has these like populist vibes, who's running for governor in Mississippi, and is probably his attempt is to get a lot of these Republicans in Mississippi on board with him that usually vote Republican, but he's trying to like get them to vote for him in a general, kind of like how Jim Hood did back in 2019, but maybe a little bit more effectively. I don't know. I really don't think he'd win statewide, and there may be some skeletons in his closet. He's being propped up by the Lincoln Project. It's never a good sign. I'm not a Tate Reeves guy at all, but I don't know. Exactly said, would you rather have an amnesty WEF show like Salazar or a Democrat? That's probably all you're going to get in a district like that. Well, she won it by like 15 points, and it's moving vastly to the right. Now, primarying her would be difficult, obviously, but she's one of the worst Republicans currently in the caucus. And I think it's possible that maybe like a Republican Cuban could oppose her on certain things and run against her, or at least push her to the right so she doesn't do this type of stuff, or at least appear to shill for these things that are going to hurt Republicans in the long run, ironically enough, like amnesty. So it's not like she's the only thing you could get. Maybe back in 2020, that was the view because she kind of won out of nowhere, but Trump also did well in that district. It's moving to the right. I don't think she'll be primaried, but I'd really like to see Tony Gonzalez, be primaried out of that one Texas district because they redistricted him into a much redder district, and he's been moving to the left on a lot of issues since then. It's like a mess. Wholesome DJ Aftershock says Michigan House Majority Leader is a DSA socialist. Well, you could say that might actually inspire them to lose seats in 2024, but I don't know if enough people really are paying attention to that point. So it's kind of a black pill on that front. I don't have really any high hopes for Michigan in 2024. I know Stabenow's retiring. I don't think a single Republican is going to be able to win that seat against, I don't know, like Slotkin or Stevens or one of those people they're going to thrust into that position. Maybe Stevens because she's such an optical disaster, but I mean, even at that point, if you're a Democrat and you're an optical disaster, you still get rewarded by, free passes from the media, doesn't get covered. I mean, John Fetterman's a senator. It's like it all comes down to turnout as well. And the Michigan GOP has zero turnout apparatus. They don't know what the hell they're doing, even more so than even like a Wisconsin Republican Party who's not even that competent, but at least they kind of know what they're doing more so than Michigan or Pennsylvania or definitely Minnesota. But Michigan appears to be going down the Minnesota pathway, even though I think they're more like North Carolina in the way that they're going to be like, a state Republicans could win on a good year, but is kind of like a fluke that they won it in 2016, kind of the way the Dems won it by in 2008 with North Carolina. But Benson X says, run John Forte, Rosendale, and Montana, then tie them to the top of the ticket. Limit ticket splitting as much as possible. That's a decent strategy. John Forte needs another term as governor. Rosendale, I wouldn't be opposed. Some people are saying like he'd be a liability electorally, but I mean, like he'd probably win by at least like 6-7 points. Tester's not as popular as some people make him out to be. I would be open to another option. Isn't there like Attorney General just as solid and would actually win that seat by a decent margin? I don't know, but it is true. Ticket splitting is less of a thing than it used to be. I mean, states like Arizona love to split their tickets for some down ballot races, as we know, but it's kind of a thing of the past. It really is. I mean, like, especially in a presidential year, doesn't matter who the nominee is. If they take Montana by more than 10, there's virtually no way I see John Tester holding on. There's just no way. I mean, it is what it is. Life of Foley says Wisconsin is what Iowa was in 2012. I mean, I wouldn't say so because Iowa was still voting Dem by like 5 points or more in 2012. I would compare it. I don't know what you compare Wisconsin to. I think it's just probably is going to turn right and probably never slow down. But, if you put up a Republican that doesn't resonate well with voters, it's possible they narrowly lose the state. I don't know. It's not like you're going to, like Ron Johnson, he only won by 1, despite it being like a red wave year, so to speak, which really wasn't, was like R+3 nationally. But it's like a lot needs to change in these states and the way the GOPs operate, which brings us to the RNC chair election, which we're going to be talking about in the documentary style video later this week. I'm probably going to record the audio for it tomorrow. But it's like, yeah, the RNC needs a change of direction and how they target these voters, how they view elections. Like, they really need to change now, or it's going to get really ugly really fast. And that's not me dooming or concern trolling. That's just genuine concern and constructive criticism that we need to tackle. Matthew Pacheco says top 2024 candidates to primary. I think Newhouse is going to be at the top of the list. Mace as well will be up there for 2024. I think you're possibly going to see Gonzalez be on the list as well. I mean, there are a lot of people we got close to, like Michael Guest, that we could take another crack at down in Mississippi at primarying. I don't really think any of the new arrivals have shocked me as like people that need to go instantly. Like, I can't think of a single new congressman so far that I can think of at the top of my head that I'd love to see primaried now. Now, it's possible that could change and people will show their true colors as Congress will go on. But no, I'm not going to primary every single person who voted for Kevin McCarthy to begin with. I mean, I'm just not. And it would kind of be pointless because that was pretty much all Republicans at the end of it, because the Freedom Caucus got basically everything they demanded. Crenshaw's another one, but he's not a new arrival. But like I said, there are others. I can't think of every single one at the top of my head. People will say George Santos. I don't think he's running, although he says he does, and he doesn't have a really good track record with honesty. But like, I don't even think we need to primary him. Like, he'll lose the primary, and whoever beats him in a primary will lose the general. So I don't know. R. Watkinski says, what are the chances of McDaniel losing the chair? Well, she initially had over 100 people that pledged to vote for her, but that was like backtracked a little bit because of Dylan entering the race. So I don't know. I think she has more than a 50-50 shot, but it doesn't mean that it's a guarantee. Macintosh 1581 says, what does Trump see in McDaniel? He has praised her in the past and won't even endorse one of his own attorneys against her for the RNC chair. I don't know what he still sees in her. I think he likes the idea, and he initially liked the idea of her at the chair position because, oh, it's a woman. And Trump has this weird, like, feminist tendency, which does sound weird saying that. If you said that back in 2016, just, out of context, people would think you're crazy. But, like, he wants to put women in these positions of power. Like, he chose ACB because she was a woman. He wants a woman VP now, and it's just like, we need the best person for the job. That's what we need. We need the best person who's going to do the best job. And Trump didn't endorse McDaniel for RNC chair. He's staying out of it, which you could say is like the smart thing to do or whatever. And it's possible that if he endorses Dylan, that some of these like RNC like insiders would be like, oh, I'm not picking Trump's choice. I'm going with Ronna Romney McDaniel. So I'm not like that angry about that in and of itself, but he should have never initially endorsed her for the post to begin with. There was no reason for it. So, but like I said, I'm not going to be mad that he's not endorsing Dylan because it allows Dylan to kind of do her own thing down the stretch and stand on her own, and we'll see how she does in the election. But she definitely has ground to make up, and she's made up a lot of ground already. So we'll see. But if you lose 3 cycles in a row and you are a part of GOP leadership, you need to go. You need to get out of the way. And that's the way it is. And she's led the operation, messaging, etc. She's been that main leader, essentially like a coach for 3 years, hasn't got us a single victory. The victories we have gotten were because people like Youngkin strayed away from that messaging, ran a campaign that was relatively competent and focused on the issues of Virginia, not the issues of whatever the RNC told him to. Same thing goes for Zeldin talking about crime, single-handedly saving the House, and he was somebody who did not stab the base in the back, would defend Trump on the debate stage, and still managed to get within 7 in New York, but he was competent and focused on things that mattered. So we'll see. But either way, Dylan is the best choice for the chair. I really hope to see her in there. I don't know if she will be, but it would be a massive disaster for the Republican Party to keep going down this losing pathway, embrace the losing culture that McDaniel has perpetuated time and time again. And looking at Dylan's like platform, and we could pull it up and talk about it, but I think we're going to save that for the documentary that will be coming out pretty shortly by the end of this week or Sunday, ideally. But like you look at her platform and it's just like, okay, she hits the notes on all of the right cylinders. Every single cylinder, she hits the note right in the head. Talks about going on offense with litigation, saying we need our own Mark Eliases with redistricting. And it's true. And like, there's no good reason to oppose her because she wants to rectify all of the electoral mechanic issues that, and messaging to a large degree, that Ronna Romney McDaniel has completely turned a blind eye to. The only reason why she mentioned, oh, well, maybe we'll look into like early voting more or whatever, is because now she has pressure. Now she has an opponent. She's going to have to be pushed to the right. And maybe if she does get in, that could be a silver lining, but you can't really trust her to honor those demands whatsoever, and it's just going to showcase the divide further. But either way, the poll that came out was like 86-14. There was another poll that had it at like, I don't know, 90-something to 5 if you combine her and Lindell, who, again, is not really a challenger that's going to get any votes. But you look at the margin there, it was ridiculous. I mean, people want her to go. They want her out of the way, and we need change. And we can get that. But if not, it just shows the disconnect, because if 90% of the base, it's not like 90% of the base includes people that don't even like want Trump in 2024, includes like the DeSantis heads. It includes some of the people that may have voted for more establishmentarian people in the primary. But if like 90% of the party wants Dylan and they stick with the loser because, oh, she's like a part of the establishment, member of the Romney family, whatever. It's nonsense. There's no good reason. People will say, well, she tweeted this out about some like Nevada woman who's a little controversial, and joining the RNC is a good thing. And it's like, yeah, no shit. I mean, she wants an extra delegate voting for her. What's she supposed to do? Shove them under the bus? The left never shoves their people under the bus. It's not like the average voter will be like, oh, I was going to vote Republican today. But this woman that most people out there probably don't even know who runs the RNC decided to tweet something positive about this woman who said this like 20 years ago or whatever. I'm not going to vote Republican. It's like, no, of course not. Of course not. And that same woman is only controversial because she was running in a campaign against a Democrat, won a primary against the establishment. The establishment leaked potentially like fake text messages that she allegedly made, not sure if they're real or not, to her Democrat opponent, because this is how evil these people truly are. They don't care about winning. They just care about proving points about how they only need their people in power. That's it. That's all it comes down to. It's disgusting, but that's how the GOP establishment operates. It is. So, yeah. All right, let's see. Real Texan Politics says, it'd be interesting to see what the result would be if we're able to vote for RNC chair, although I reckon Lindell and Harmeet would split the MAGA vote. Yeah, I don't know what he's doing in the race. Like, and the thing is, when it comes to the whole election issue, like, that's his thing, right? He talks about we need reform here and there, but at the same time, we're never going to take power unless we actually use the current system to our advantage. That's pretty much it. We could have lawsuits here and there, of course. We should. But I just don't know if he knows how to run the party. Dylan is somebody I think would be a lot more savvy in regards to her approach to a lot of these issues. And she's just as tough on election integrity, but she does it in a different way, I guess you would say. And either way, the polls consistently show the base prefers Dylan. And Dylan is just fine. There's really no arguments against her. I mean, people will say, well, she supported like Kamala Harris in 2010 for California AG, but Donald Trump, even when he was like an anti-Obama Republican, also supported Kamala because back then she was the tough on crime option, which again, she has completely flip-flopped on since then. But yeah, it is what it is. Mike Lindell, good guy, just not entirely sure he's cut out for the job. I want somebody who knows how to win, that's actually going to get things done so we can actually take power. And somebody that will work overtime to provide a platform that is comprehensive to do everything that they could do to change fundamentally the party and its brand. And that seems to be what Dylan's bringing to the table. And I don't know if she's going to do it all. I don't know if she's the long-term option, but she's much better than McDaniel. She needs to get out of the way. What do we have to lose at this point by putting her in charge ahead of 2024? She's a team player, unlike a lot of members of the current GOP establishment. She doesn't water down messaging either, and that's what we need, honestly. So, all right. I guess we'll keep going for a few minutes here, maybe more. Any other things? We'll look at regular chat as well. You guys want to keep sending super chats, that's fine, but we're going to also be looking at regular chat as well. I want to make sure that we didn't miss any super chats. We have a member chat from Doomsday Machine. Says, excellent, another rep stream. Thanks for what you do, man. Not to change the topic, but have you heard or seen videos from the Rageaholic? I think that's Razor Fist. Yes, I have. I know Razor Fist. He does the rants. But other than that, we don't have any more super chats. But we got the member chat. You know, a couple streams ago, the member chats weren't exactly popping up, but now they are. So that's a good thing. So let's see. Let's see what regular chat has to say. Will Michigan turn red in the next 5 to 10 years due to demographics? It really depends on how Republicans navigate Michigan. You have a lot of disaffected white working class voters in the state. Trump got enough out to win in 2016, but you know, you're going to have to do everything you could do out there to match whatever operation the Democrats have in Detroit, in Ann Arbor, in Lansing, because ever since their loss, they've taken everything seriously. They've changed their branding. They've become an institution, even though like they've even done like the vote blue no matter who thing. And it's like, I don't see why we can't do that here. And I know we like to call out the establishment, and we should, but we need to get people out to actually vote so the good people that are on the ballot win as well, so they could actually change the establishment. And that's the thing. And the far left's been getting everything they've wanted since then when they've had that mantra. And we could say, well, certain RINOs or whatever shouldn't win. It's like, yeah, I know that, but they're winning anyways. So honestly, what's the point? Like, seriously. Like, yeah, there are RINOs, but if they're winning anyways, it's like over these like Democrats that don't even try. Like, it doesn't exactly change the need. Like, a lot of people weren't exactly content with people like, I don't know, Oz, for example, in Pennsylvania, but, you know, not turning out for him definitely made the MAGA wing of the party that had their gubernatorial candidate on the ballot look bad as well. And it's not like Mastriano just bombed completely in the suburbs, which, I mean, he didn't do well there, but the shifts to the left were actually higher in rural areas because rural voters didn't turn out. So that's a major issue. Let's see. Hey, Rep, I purchased a subscription on your website but don't have member commenting privileges. Is that something I have to purchase through YouTube? If you're talking about the YouTube badges that give like the monthly member chats to users, yes, that is completely separate than the website. The website is for exclusive videos, which I'm dropping one tomorrow, and I have a lot of articles there as well for you guys to check out. You can join the Discord, etc. The website's great. But in terms of getting like the badge, like that's YouTube memberships. And I know it's confusing. They do it differently. I get it. It is what it is. But either way, yeah, that's an entirely different situation. So let's see. New York lost too many voters to go red. They've lost a lot of voters, but it is weird because at the same time, they keep moving to the right despite losing a lot of voters. And yeah, upstate is different than like New York City area, upstate. You saw counties flip, I think, from the Molinaro or whoever the nominee was in 2018 to Hochul, which was strange because the state as a whole voted to the right by a lot more. And you could say, okay, maybe that's because of certain things to do with like the fact that Hochul was from upstate, but some of it also could have to do with the fact that people have left. I don't know. But either way, it is what it is. Doomsday Machine with 20 said, you Razorfist Dr. Steve Turley and Liberal Hive Mind are my favorite people to watch on YouTube for politics. Y'all are like the America First Roundtable. Got any other political YouTube channels to recommend? Well, I got a lot of YouTube channels to recommend. I could just go down the list. Depends what you're really looking for in terms of the political niche of things. But I mean, you can't discount John Doyle, but I mean, he doesn't upload that much. But when he does upload, it's good. And I'm hearing that there are more uploads on the way. So you can't make a list without putting him on it. He's done a great job over the years, and hopefully he will continue to produce more content. But yeah, it is true. George S. says, what are the risks of Texas turning blue in the near future due to all the liberal judges in the system and so many illegals pouring over the border? It depends if they get amnesty. If they get amnesty, they're basically going to be screwed and have been screwed for a long, long time. Now, I will say that it's not a guarantee that they do, but we need to get in there. We need to achieve power. We need to win so we can actually do things. We don't have time to mess around, especially in Texas. I think even Greg Abbott knows this, because the day after he won by like 11, he actually decided to start taking action on the border. And it's like, oh, that was strange, because he was somebody who kind of used to throw a bone to the base, rhetorically speaking, about the border to just win a primary, which he didn't even do that well in. Did worse than Brian Kemp and some others, but I don't know. You look at that and then he actually wins and then actually starts taking action. Maybe he just knows that if he doesn't, Republicans are going to be screwed. And if that's what wakes the establishment up, I mean, I'm not going to counter signal that or them actually taking action, but there is that skepticism to be had there as well with these people, that they're not going to take action, but maybe they'll learn it just by looking at their own election results. I don't know. But Texas could be in a lot of trouble. Arizona's in a lot of trouble now. Georgia's been in a lot of trouble. Now, we don't know a lot about Texas's future. It could go either way. The Republican Party, maybe not some of their elected officials, but like the people within the party leadership tend to actually get it more so than not and know how to win. But, I mean, we have a long, long way to go before we really know when Texas goes blue, if it does, which, again, depends on what happens. If there's no action taken on the border, on just immigration as a whole, I mean, you have a lot of South Asian immigration even coming to, like, the DFW area. A lot of these people, when they vote, they're not voting Republican in the slightest. They're voting heavily Democrat, even more so than some of like the Central American migrants when they get naturalized. So it's an issue. Mike Griffin says, what do you think about Mark Robinson gearing up to run for governor of North Carolina? How do you like his chances? Well, he did very good in 2020. He outperformed everybody despite being by far the most controversial. And I think he could do it again because Roy Cooper's not on the ticket. He's like the Democrats' strongest guy in the state. He's going to be out of the way. So, yeah. Doomsday Machine says, yes, I forgot John Doyle too. Yeah, I hear a new video's coming eventually. I don't know when, but eventually. But yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if you guys saw, even Steven Crowder today like released a statement or a video on his channel or whatever, and he was talking about YouTube being in bed, or not just YouTube, but like the big tech companies as a whole being in bed with a lot of like these major conservative networks. And I think he just left like the Blaze or whatever. So it's interesting to see that. Like, I don't know if he's talking about the Daily Wire or whoever he was talking about, but it is true. Like a lot of these networks, and I'm not saying that there's not good people within them, because there absolutely are people that get it, that are a part of these networks, and that's a good thing. But it is interesting to see how, you know, you'd be punished by some of these corporations if you like get strikes or whatever. Like there's no pushback because they tend to be in close coordination with a lot of these big tech companies, and it's very strange. But it is true, like Facebook was proven to like be propping up Ben Shapiro or something like that a few years back, and like that's what they used to say censorship doesn't exist against conservatives or dissident voices or whatever, which again was proven false, that notion, by the Twitter files, because they did everything they could do to just remove accounts on a whim that the DNC would send their way. But yeah, interesting. Oh well, it's not like it's anything we didn't know, but the fact that it's out there, like just blatantly in the public eye, really should just anger people, because it's just total nonsense. And it has, and a lot of people are really more privy to that now, more so than ever. But it's not, I mean, we're proven right, but it's not like anything really changes because of it, other than the fact that the base gets a little more riled up, which is still a net positive. I'm not counter signaling the release of these files or anything like that, but yeah. Either way, that's another thing. What is going to be the GOP agenda on big tech? Are they going to be in bed? Because a lot of these tech corporations, they actually fund a lot of these establishment GOP politicians as well. So that's an issue. And that's something that needs to be focused on as well. Because you don't want these people that are going to get into office that promise to be tough on big tech and then just sit there and do nothing. So, yeah. But all right, I think we're going to have a last call for Super Chats, and then we're going to end the stream. If you guys have anything else to say, now's the time. But other than that, we're going to be ending here very shortly. But it is true. It was a good stream, and there will be more content on the way. I can say that because there's a lot to cover. 2024 is underway. I mean, Trump already talking about holding these events. He's been out of the public eye for quite some time. I mean, it's been like 2 months since we've heard anything from this guy. It's been 2 months. And we'll see what he comes out with. And there's a lot of good that he can do. There's a lot of potential that he has, but he has to use it, and he has to go back to the messaging that will actually win him over the entire base, because the entire base isn't even on board right now. And you could say that that's because of conservative media attacking him for dumb things, or because it's propping up other people as like super based, even if they're exaggerating their accomplishments or whatever. I don't know, but either way, to combat that, he's going to have to get out there. And if he's going to be able to run, if he's just running this primary campaign on Truth Social, he's not going to win an election. I'm just going to say that. I will say that. And he can't just do that. And maybe you'll say, oh, well, like Truth Social will grow a little bit more when we get closer to 2024. True, but will it grow enough to actually reach voters that he's going to need to reach in order to win? I don't know. Especially when you have Fox News not on his side. You have a lot of networks not on his side. You have, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's insane how many of these people have kind of turned on him or just pretended to act like he doesn't exist. I don't. I always have viewed him objectively. You have like the crazy people on social media that say you're a Trump cultist because I vaguely may throw hey, settle down. Maybe DeSantis is not perfect, like every once in a while. And some of these people, they like tweet, and it's like there's hundreds of thousands of tweets on their account over the past couple of years, and like they just are tweeting. Every single tweet is about how Trump failed, like this thing, and like they'll attack him from the right and the left simultaneously, and they'll just prop up DeSantis 24/7. And it's like, if you want to make me believe DeSantis is like our guy, then this stuff is not exactly like going to bode well for that claim. I'm just going to be real, because I want to like the guy, but a lot of his like core supporters that like criticize Trump all day long are just so insufferable, and you just can't deal with them. And I'm not going to say that there aren't people on Trump's side that'll make excuses for all the dumb things that he does, like, parade around with Lindsey Graham, or like, I guess you would say shill the jab or whatever. But it's like DeSantis does these similar things. Like he's out there partying with Jeb Bush and all this stuff. And it's like, that doesn't sit well with me either. So I'm kind of a little disillusioned to a certain extent, But we'll see what Trump does. I'm going to view everything objectively. But there's this weird AstroTurf campaign on social media that's like neo-never Trumpers. They're like, I don't know where they came from. They're like, they'll just shill DeSantis 24/7 while being insufferable. It's like, I don't think, they're not helping their cause anyways. Like a lot of the normies that like you'll meet that prefer DeSantis over Trump are like nothing like these people. They're just not. They like both of them. They just like, oh, well, DeSantis doesn't piss off the left. I'll go vote for him instead. Which again, I think that argument is kind of misleading. I think that I can understand where they're coming from, but it's misleading. But at least I would say it's not in bad faith. But a lot of these people are just like bad faith actors 24/7, and I deal with them, and they're insufferable. And it's true. Like, you go back and watch my content like in early 2021, before these people propped up, before the Electabros propped up out of nowhere. It's like, it was a lot more like, I guess you would say, open to the idea. But now it's like, now that I see how these establishment people have been operating, even with the flaws of Trump, it's like I kind of want to say push the brakes a little bit. I don't know. But Alex Kuchar says, in April, Wisconsin will have a Supreme Court election and an abortion referendum. Thoughts? I mean, if they're on the same day, I don't have high hopes for that Supreme Court election given the abortion referendum, which, again, it is what it is. But it is an important election, and if Republicans do take it, that'd be a good thing. We'll see. They lost it. They lost a seat in 2020, I believe, because it was on the same day as the Democrat primary, although they won a seat there in 2019, I believe it was. So we'll see. Real Texan Politics says Trump needs to do a rally in Kentucky soon for Dan Cameron. Also hope Mike Pence endorses Kelly Craft so she could be done once and for all. I don't even know if either of them are going to be the nominees or if they're the best choices. I'll leave it at that. I don't know. We'll see. I'm just saying I'm not entirely sure that they're going to be the choices. So I guess we'll leave it at that. But yeah, all right, guys, I think we're going to end the stream. Make sure to like the stream before you go. Subscribe if you haven't. And if you have subbed, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another stream or video ever again in the future. And I will see you guys probably with a video tomorrow. So as always, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle out.